What up, Dix? Hello, David Sampson. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Thursday. It's a David Sampson show, and we've got a lot of questions for David. David, the Yankees and the Marlins had a series over the weekend, and it was well attended. Everyone was encouraged to wear their '03 championship replica rings that looked all nice. They brought back some luminaries, which for the Marlins is a nice touch considering their sordid history with that. I was alerted to a Glenn Geffner Substack that I thought made a good point. Now, you can accuse Glenn Geffner, a former Marlins broadcaster who was let go of some bitterness, but he said he alluded to the fact that the Marlins traffic on nostalgia when convenient. And historically, they've actually done a really poor job of tapping into their history unless it's time to cash in. Were you aware of this Glenn Geffner Substack, and where do you fall on the points that he brought up?
That's what we all use nostalgia for. That's when you do it. You'd say it's the 10-year anniversary or the 20-year anniversary, and you do it so you can do a patch or you can sell extra jerseys or sell extra tickets. I'm not sure I understand his beef. I absolutely understand why he's bitter, and I've read some of his writings, and I get the way he was treated because I watched it, but that's not what happened this weekend. I was upset that Jack McKeon was not there. I was upset that I wasn't there and that Larry Beinfest and Michael Hill and Jeffrey Lurie and other people in the front office were not invited to be a part of that. That was disappointing. But in terms of getting the players back, they had a great selection. It was so good to see everyone. I couldn't believe I had not seen Josh Beckett in a really long time. And Derek Lee looked great, and Pudge. But no,
Derek Lee did look great.
He goes, Derek Lee looked great, and Pudge.
Yeah, Derek Lee did look great. I mean, he's got the fresh coat on, but, he looks good. I mean, I do it occasionally if the beard's too long. But, yeah, I mean, he looks like he did in his 20s. Come on, people don't age like that.
I mean, don't be a hater. Let the man.
I'm not being a hater. I'm giving him his flowers.
No,
guys.
you're not giving him flowers. You're giving him a little side
Well,
flower.
don't try to fool me.
He's not trying to fool you. Clearly, you know that you're not fooled.
He's trying to fool. Here's how you don't try to fool me. Come out and say it out the box. Yeah, I recently did the Just for Menzies.
So, it'd be a weird thing.
Medium brown.
I like
That's
this.
why I look so great.
So here,
great to be here tonight. It's great memories. I have diet
medium
in
brown.
My hair.
Medium brown. I wanted to be the guy at the reunion. My dad lives for high school reunions because he was fat in high school and bullied, and now he looks great in his 60s, and he can't wait. Guy was never active in high school, but every reunion he's like, victory lap time, and that's what Derek Lee was up to.
You look great too, David. I like this. I know you have like a rotation of your shirts and coats. I like this combo.
Yeah.
It suits you well. You got a fresh coat up top, or you just resistant to gray? What are we doing there?
No, I do not. Why is this a thing with you guys?
Because
I do not.
The top is very dark, and you can tell that your beard is gray,
Right.
and you've let your beard grow, and you've seen more grays. But for whatever reason, the top of your head is resistant to the grays. And my dad is the exact same way, and he does not dye it.
It's just genes.
Yeah.
And I shave every Sunday. I shave 52 times a year at most, just Sundays. So as the week goes on, if we did our show Monday, I'd be cleanly shaved. And then by Friday, I've got growth. I just don't enjoy shaving.
I'm lonely in here, guys.
What are your thoughts on Derek Lee's hair dye? It was a good job. Yeah, you said it looked great, but the first thought that runs through your mind is he looks great, and not like what's his secret.
Does it matter to you
Yes.
that people would dye their hair?
I have
Clearly
body
it matters.
dysmorphia. I just project. Does other people's appearance matter to me? Who are you talking to?
If you're out there and you dye your hair, we got your back. We support you. It's your hair. It's your money. Do what the hell you want to do with your damn
Yes.
money. If you want to paint that shit on your head, paint yourself, bro. We got your back.
Yeah, just let me know about it.
Yes, just
Don't
be
try to fool
forthright.
me.
Don't be out here.
Otherwise, I will hold you
Top
accountable.
foolery.
I get highlights.
I mean,
Is that your view of Botox as well?
Yeah, it is.
I almost got some tox.
Yeah?
My wife
Nothing wrong with
suggested that
that.
I get a little tox, and I was like, nah, I'm good on it.
She suggested.
Yeah, she suggested I get a little
Forehead?
tox. Yeah,
T-zone?
I got a
Because you're on
mean
camera?
wrinkle. I think so, yeah. Or maybe it's because I'm not as handsome as I used to be.
I think you look great.
I know. I'm not actually worried about
You
it.
don't dye your beard.
I don't. We had this conversation already. We're in reruns. I haven't been here long enough. We had this conversation before. I want gray hair. Like, I want some salt. I find the grays that my wife has to be incredibly attractive. She wants to pluck them. I got a thing for gray hair. It's weird. I'm into old people, I think.
Yeah, and you want your wife to age with naturally, and I've heard your podcast before where you're like, no, I'm here for it. I want the gray hairs and everything.
I mean, the little shock of gray that like one little sprout, and grays have different texture than your natural hair sometimes. And I don't know, it's like, I'm not a hugely sentimental guy, but when I see my wife and most of her hair is like very dark black hair, and then there's like this crinkly gray coming through, it reminds me. We've been together for a long time. I find it attractive and beautiful. As you get older, there are things that are more attractive than just a big donk. Although, big donks, still attractive.
So I have a confession to make, which is that
You got a big donk?
Oh,
I see your
okay.
cheeks. I see your cheeks.
Pause.
my confession is that when I get a gray eyebrow hair and I've got one on my right eyebrow, that I get rid of it.
Oh, medium brown will
Because
fix
that drives me crazy.
You gotta go
I'm
medium
not
brown.
gonna dye my eyebrows, but I believe that that's not an area that I want to have an issue. That and any sort of ear hair. I don't understand men who do not take care of their ear hair.
I try all the time. My barber just has taken to waxing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you? Well, I mean,
Oh,
you already have
he
wax
puts
in
the
there.
wax in and then he
It's
just rips it
2023.
out.
Yeah, they can be barbers too.
You can absolutely wax your ear hair. It is no problem. You can also wax your nose hair.
Yeah, no, she goes to town on it and it's very painful. It's very painful. Why don't the Marlins have any retired jerseys?
We did have a retired jersey, and we unretired it
For
because
Logan Morrison.
Morrison wanted it, which makes me insane.
And it wasn't really like a retired jersey.
It's a retired number.
I mean, it was kind of honored, but the Marlins have not had a ceremony. Gesundheit. They have not had a ceremony despite their 2 world championships, and I think we understand why, because they've been a fairly transient franchise as far as the players go. Players come in, players don't play long enough to establish this legacy, to which I say we're about 30 years into this franchise now, and let's lean into it. Like, Josh Beckett should have his jersey retired by this franchise because he was incredible during one of their 2 world championships. Miguel Cabrera, when it's time, should have his jersey retired. Mike Lowell, it's long been time for Mike Lowell to have his jersey honored by this.
Now we're getting to the point. Like, I was
There's
with you
tipping
the first couple.
Okay,
Gary
but you're with me
Sheffield.
the first. We have tipping points, but the Marlins barometer for a retired jersey or a Hall of Fame seems pretty high. Like they have really high standards for this. I use this example. J.J. Hardy's a member of the Baltimore Oriole Hall of Fame. If you're into the nostalgia and the cash grabs of it, and you want to tap into people that used to be fans but maybe been put off by things that you and Jeffrey did, bring them back with a good old-fashioned jersey retirement.
We had many meetings about this, and we tried to figure out whose jersey we would retire. My thought is I wanted to start with Jack. But the argument that was given to me is you can't do Jack without Jim Leland. Then I said, what about Luis Castillo? Underrated.
That's a great
in
one.
terms
That's
of
good.
Where he stands.
And
in
no one wears
franchise.
number 1.
And he wore number 1. It's a great jersey number to start with. And
He
is
was number 1.
He really is number 1 in so many categories. Then we had, what about Mr. Marlin? Why isn't it Jeff Conine?
No.
And then the issue was he wore 19, he wore 18. Which number do you do? Do you talk to Jeff, let him choose?
He was
But
average.
then we said you can't do him and not do Lowell. Then we got to Cabrera. And then the argument was made to me is in basketball, they'll retire a jersey. This was when the Heat, help me with what year the Heat retired Michael Jordan's number.
So Michael Jordan's number is not actually retired. It's a misnomer. It's kind of honored. The way that your Logan Morrison jersey wasn't actually retired. It just had a flag and was honored. If someone wants to wear the number 23 for the Miami Heat, I think they can do it the same way that they can do it with Dan Marino, which was also...
Has anyone worn 23 though?
No.
So it sounds like it's retired.
I mean, if Damian Lillard gets traded here and says, I want number 23, they're not going to stop him.
So
But if he says I want number 3, they'll stop him.
you had a slippery slope argument, is the reason why you didn't retire any numbers, is because once you introduce the number, then you're like, oh yeah, it is that guy. So instead of starting it, you just said no retirement.
That's a crap explanation. It's just but you had to do Lowell. Like, that's easy. They both wore 19. You don't have to worry about it.
I'm gonna try this the next time my kids want to have a birthday party. I'm gonna be like, well, but then you gotta invite this person, which means next thing you know, all of DC is gonna be at our house. Let's just call it off.
The internet is implying that 23 is retired by the Heat.
Okay, fine. But let it. All right, fine. I was wrong. Mea culpa. Thank you.
LeBron's
guys.
I was
number's
under the
23.
impression they did a ceremony where they actually retired his number. And I believe I was with the Marlins at the time. And I was so put off by that it changed my view of retiring numbers. And we went the other way. And the Marlins do have a retired number, but it's an industry retired number. It's number 42.
Yeah, the Jackie Robinson number. Okay, that. Why don't you guys do this? I don't understand. I don't understand. And Jeffrey Loria spoke, and he was salty. Oh yeah, he was salty. He's still mad about the statue. Did you? What was your takeaway from Jeffrey's comments?
It's a sculpture, not a statue.
Yeah, whatever.
A statue is of a person. A
Potato,
sculpture is of a
potato.
thing.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry. Mea culpa again.
So
Culpa.
You're not wrong.
Oh God, I'm not.
I mean,
infallible,
sculptures
folks.
can be statues. Statues can also be sculptures.
So no thoughts on it.
No thoughts on what Jeffrey's comments were to the Miami Herald?
I'm
Is that what
asking.
you're asking?
I'm asking.
That was his question. Yeah, I mean,
You know what? I've decided I'm taking the next segment off.
Oh no!
You've earned it. I mean, this man is working you.
Dominique, did you just send him to the penalty box?
I would never. I think you sent him to the penalty box. You frustrated him by refusing to answer the questions, using slippery slope arguments. Like, give this man, maybe he'll come back if you give a straight answer. Give a straight answer.
I got a question for you, David.
Yes,
Juju
sir.
here. What's the most adorable thing you've done this week?
Oh. Made.
I washed sheets and towels for my son because they're new and he's moving into college at the end of the month. And I didn't want him to have out of the bag sheets and towels. So I washed them so he can use them and they can be comfortable.
David,
You, sir, are adorable.
that's adorable.
Adorable. What school? Are we telling or is it a secret? Oh, God. All righty. That last segment reminded me, I want you guys to put this in a note file somewhere. Next time you have Pablo, you can use this. Pablo is like number memory blind. So if you want to stress Pablo out, this is completely unconnected to anything. But next time you talk to Pablo, just name players and ask him what number they wear. He will blow it. We had him stuck on Dan Marino for a while. We got him stuck on Kobe numbers. He couldn't get any Kobe numbers. It was a mess. So just put it in your pocket. Good game to play with Pablo is what number to this guy. He didn't know Joe Montana's number. And it's not like he doesn't know sports. Like, he knows the people. He knows the stats, but we're just starting naming players that we all think we know their numbers. Pablo is number blind.
Can he remember phone numbers?
I don't know. It's surprising for somebody
It'd
who's
be
such
odd if he could be good with those numbers.
I
and
think
bad with-
so. For somebody who's such a good student, you would expect a good student to have a great memory. But I think he does have a good memory elsewhere, but for some reason with sports, man's number blind. Put
How
that in
many
your pocket.
phone numbers does the average person remember?
None.
Because if you get locked up, you got to know somebody's number. I'm speaking for a friend. It's not me. But you got to know these numbers, and that's hard.
Who's the person you're calling? David, next time you get locked up, who do you call to come bail you?
There won't be a next time, Juju.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's important to teach your kids numbers. I was just thinking about that the other day, that asking people and kids, do they know their cell phone number of their parents or of somebody they can call? Because everybody is just used to on their phone, and no one remembers cell phone numbers anymore.
Put it on the poll. Is it important to teach kids numbers? We'll find out how that goes later. All right, David. So I've been listening to your show. You've talked a bunch about the Michael Oher situation. I was wondering if you'd be willing to share some thoughts on how it's playing out, because every day there's a little bit more. Well, it's not new information. It's just another statement made by one of the sides. What do you got for us, David?
I'm despondent about the whole situation because I want to believe movies, and I wanted to watch The Blind Side and think that everything was roses and unicorns and butterflies between the Tuohys and Michael Oher. We discovered it on today's Nothing Personal. We covered it, and I want to just mention, can you imagine that now, not only did Michael Oher know that he was a part of a conservatorship, he wrote about it in his own autobiography on the assumption that he read his autobiography, which some people, this is not about athletes, some people have books written by them that they don't even read. That happens. But it's mentioned in there. So what he said is he discovered this in February of 23, but it was written about in 2011. Now the Tuohys are arguing through their lawyer that he's also trying to, or is trying to extort them for $15 million and said, I won't go public with what a piece of crap you are if you give me $15 million. And I just looked at this story and I hate them both now, both sides, and that bothers me.
It's always a safe place to be. Your love of movies, David. Are there movies that you know are like, obviously they're fiction movies that you know aren't fake, but are there movies that are based on a true story that you know are garbage, but you pretend and you stick by the fact that you love the movie, doesn't matter? Did you love The Blind Side, I guess is the question. Did you love it when it came out, and do you still love it now?
Yes. So I haven't changed my mind about the movie because I try to separate it.
Right.
There's a great movie from a long time ago called The Falcon and the Snowman with Sean Penn and Timothy Hutton. And Dominique, I don't know if you've heard of that movie or seen that movie. It's about American spies, just two ordinary guys who ended up becoming major spies. And it's a very, very good movie, very interesting story. But I always go read the fact v fiction after I watch a movie, but it doesn't impact my view of the movie. I just want to make sure I get it right. So when you see a movie like The Big Short, very informative, important movie to watch, it doesn't mean that everything happened exactly like that. Or The Beanie Bubble, it didn't happen like that. Bohemian Rhapsody, that didn't happen the way it was in the movie, but still a great movie. So separating the two in your mind is important.
I hate biopics.
Speaking of biopics, Dominique, there's a new movie, David, called Maestro with Bradley Cooper, where Bradley Cooper is playing Leonard Bernstein. I love the way that you just perked up hearing what was going on here. Bradley Cooper in some hot water for wearing a big prosthetic nose to play Leonard Bernstein. I'm just wondering your thoughts in general, obviously, as Bradley Cooper is sort of being drug into the conversations on anti-Semitism here.
It's outrageous. I am the first one to try to say that people do not have feel or they're doing something wrong, including myself. Leonard Bernstein had a big nose.
Ooh, this is where we disagree.
That's just him, and it's perfectly okay. The family had to come out and give a statement saying, we're not upset what Bradley Cooper looks like. Our dad would have loved Bradley Cooper's nose. Frankly, would have loved Bradley Cooper playing him. Leonard Bernstein was not exactly a model. I am finding that everybody is looking for something to criticize and a reason to get angry or to cry anti-Semitism or racism or everything else. There is such real anti-Semitism in the world and such real racism in the world that we're actually downplaying what's real in order to upplay what involves a movie star, and that is just wrong.
I don't disagree with you at all that the outrage and calling Bradley Cooper anti-Semitic for what's going on here is problematic, especially when there is such rampant anti-Semitism going on in the United States and in other ways. But I think that we're sort of picking issue with the wrong part of the prosthetic nose. My issue is not
wrong part of the body.
Well, that. My issue is not that Bradley Cooper is wearing a prosthetic nose in general. My issue is that particularly for a young Leonard Bernstein, if you look at Bradley Cooper as is, his nose is just the same size nose as Leonard Bernstein. He doesn't need the prosthetic nose to be able to qualify, so it's not the issue that there is a prosthetic nose to play a Jewish person. If it was a Jewish person with a larger nose, I would have no issue. The issue is Bradley Cooper's nose is not exactly a little button nose, David.
So you are taking issue with the costume department?
Yes, the costume department is really who's at fault here. I have no issues with
That's
Bradley
rich.
Cooper. I have no issues with that. I have the costume department, despite my jackets that I've worn. The costume department is to blame. At least we can get rid of the Jews Run Hollywood thing.
I don't really have an opinion on this. I've always generally been fine with the use of prosthetics to look historically accurate, but I do think it's funny that famously Bradley Cooper played the Elephant Man on Broadway and he used zero prosthetics.
No prosthetics there.
It is. I mean, I do think I'm with you generally. Like, you want to look like somebody, prosthetics don't matter. But when there is a specific feature that is associated with a group of people, to accentuate that specific feature when you are not a part of that community feels a little bit like, why don't you just find someone who actually looks like him? And I know you said Jake Gyllenhaal was associated with the project at one point. I mean, I don't know how Leonard Bernstein would feel about any of this, but like, I feel like if I had to choose, I'd rather have Jake Gyllenhaal play me. I think a little bit cuter.
There are examples where a nose can be an issue. There were cartoons done of me when I was in Montreal, and they were in the French newspapers, in the Quebecois newspapers. And I don't know if they're still around on the internet, but I still have them somewhere in a box for my kids to throw away when I croak. But they made my nose, and I don't have a particularly large nose, but they made my nose unusually large. Yeah. And to me, that was straight anti-Semitism, and I had a big problem with it. And when approaching the editors of the paper, there was no explanation other than, oh, this is how they perceive you look. And I said, well, I'm right here. This is how I look. Yeah. And there was no explanation given. I just don't see the same thing with Leonard Bernstein. I think that when people think about Leonard Bernstein, his nose is one of the things they think about. When you think about me, it would be like doing a cartoon of me and making me tall. That's silly. I'm not. So why screw with the nose?
I think when the movie is done where you are playing a character, I know that they've invoked David's name saying he would be fine with Bradley Cooper. I think that we should all write down a list of people or features that we would like to be accentuated when the movie is made about us. And I think you should be 6'6", David Sampson. I think you should require that whoever plays you be 6'6", and that's okay. Oh, no, you don't have a problem with not being tall, right?
That's so silly. Why wouldn't I go with a Tobey Maguire or a Tom Cruise? Why would I go with a Vince Vaughn?
Whoa. You think you're Tom Cruise level? Tom Cruise is not answering the phone and someone says, hey, you want to play David Sampson? I think you...
I'm referring to his
He
height.
will answer the phone. Tom Cruise will answer that phone quick as hell. You are attractive. Even if you get gray hairs, you're still going to be the man, bro. Don't listen to these folks. Transition back to the...
God
Speaking
for
of
you.
Thank you, brother. Speaking of
I'm
that certain
so
A-word.
sorry that I'm not there to be with you right now.
Yes, sir. Speaking of the certain A-word we were discussing, how do you feel about Jennifer Aniston's remarks on Jamie Foxx when he said people talked about Jesus? Of course they're going to talk about me. Like, did you think she was extremely wrong or very wrong?
What was she talking about?
Yeah. Zagaki.
She did since apologize too. That she was in no way showing a sign of support by liking.
She liked it and then she was upset by it, right?
She was yeah.
It's some mess.
I think she liked it. She liked Jamie Foxx's post that was like they killed Jesus. Right. They could stab you in the back too, something along those lines. And like the Jews killed Jesus is like a very classic anti-Semitic thing that maybe he wasn't aware of or wasn't implying by it. And then I think a tabloid wrote that she liked it, or people noticed that she liked the post, so then she apologized for it and walked back liking it. But then people got mad at her for following the theme of it, being an intentionally anti-Semitic post when that wasn't. It's a very like convoluted kind of saga.
And one more note
coming
about
from
that.
an Instagram like.
One more note about all of this is presently on DraftKings Sportsbook, the favorite for the NL Cy Young is Zach Gallen at plus 175. And I have no idea who wins a Cy Young in this league. And I'm gambling again, and I'm hoping for a lead.
David?
Who's the NL Cy Young?
Zach Gallen is clearly the favorite. He has a big game. He was just the nothing personal pick of the day. We do a pick every day on the show. And Zach Gallen over the Padres because the Padres are an unmitigated disaster. And Zach Gallen, the former Marlin, that was the Jazz Chisholm trade. He is favored to win, and I would expect him to win. But tonight's a big game for him, actually, because the Diamondbacks have been horrid since the All-Star break.
All right, we got a couple seconds left with you. Before we leave, I need your professional legal advice. If you douse yourself with Mountain Dew, does that destroy DNA evidence?
Absolutely not.
We're in Florida, the great state of Florida. There's a woman who is being accused of murdering her roommate. She was 36. I think he's 79. And when the police were questioning her, she asked could she have a drink, poured Mountain Dew all over herself to destroy DNA evidence. Quick thinking, David.
You might as well drink bleach to get rid of COVID.
Ugh. David Sampson's movie reviews. So I've seen the movie that you're going to review. This is the first time in a while I listen to your segments, and I normally have not seen the movies that you are going to review. But this one I've seen, so I'm excited to agree with you, my good friend, benevolent person, David Sampson. So what are you reviewing this week?
Let's talk about the Untold series. That a couple of new ones are out, and we're going to just talk about the Johnny Football one. Disappointed to say that it's only about 72 minutes. I wanted more from Johnny because he is a character who I want to hear from. I want to hear the excuses. I want to see the partying. The sadness for me is what could have been. And it drew me back to my life in sports where I've seen so many players with so much potential and it just doesn't work out for them for whatever reason, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it is lack of work ethic, whatever the case may be. And I actually ended watching Johnny Football by feeling sorry for Johnny Manziel. And I never felt sorry for him before during his career. I thought he was a punk. I thought he was horrific, ridiculous, a joke. And then I watched this and said, wow, what could have been? And that's surprising in only 72 minutes to have a change of mind like that.
Wow. Well, it seemed like the movie worked on you in a way that it didn't work on me. It felt like to me it was a documentary in search of an ending. Like they couldn't end it because these stories end in a couple of ways. It's like a sad, sad tragedy, or this person bounces all the way back and rehabilitates their life in a way. And it felt like they were trying to tell that rehabilitation story, but then they were around Johnny and was kind of like, hey, this would not be fair of us to paint this as some big success over depression and alcoholism when he is promoting a bar that he's opening the day that the film is released.
He threw his career away. And he knows it, and he knows he can't get it back. So now he's just deciding to lean into the personality that is him. Right. It's sort of like Boog's Ribs in Baltimore. You know, you go back and you do your best to try to make money when you're not making money anymore. And he expected to be rich and famous and Hall of Fame-like. And now he's just Ray Liotta from at the end of Goodfellas. He's another schnook. going to the grocery store and buying crappy pasta, and he did not picture that as his life.
What part of this movie was the part that affected you most? Because I don't know, maybe I knew more about Johnny coming into this than I did, but I didn't end up feeling sorry for him. By the end of the movie, I kind of felt like the question I had at the end of the movie was, did he get paid to do this? It didn't feel like it was like a true like journalistic documentary exercise.
Well, if you look at the Untold documentaries, I'm not sure that they're aiming for Oscars.
Yeah.
I think what they're aiming for is to get names or to get stories that people will be interested in watching. And I think I was the perfect target audience. Someone who had a fleeting knowledge of Johnny Manziel, thought that he was going to be something, and then dismissed him as, oh, another one of those athletes who throws it all away. So what got to me was just the result. And that's the thing about a real movie. It doesn't always end in tragedy or end in rehabilitation and rejuvenation. Sometimes it ends with the continuation of the waste.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it ends in lying to Chris Cody. Sometimes it ends in lying to Chris Cody and making him feel bad whenever the thing he said and asked you about was actually truthful. So Johnny Manziel,
Joker of the week, am I right?
Exactly.
Did you have a success story like that? Because we often hear about the times when the athletes or a very troubled athlete comes into an organization and the organization sets up all these parameters around them to try to help them succeed. So again, in an effort to show all sides of David Sampson, do you have a situation where you have like done that with a player and had success?
Our team psychologist, who no longer works for the Marlins, he now works for the White Sox. His name is Dr. Jeff Fishbein. Mm-hmm. He's still in touch with a former first-round pick of ours who he saved his life and continues to work with him. His name is Jeff Allison, who is supposed to be a good pitcher and basically threw away his career with drug abuse. And he has turned his life around, will not ever be rich and famous, but he actually goes around and gives speeches and works with troubled youth and those who are addicted to drugs. And to me, that is a story that is a happy ending, because he should have been dead 7 different times. And what he does now is do things that try to make people not make the mistake he has. He threw away a career, a multi-million-dollar career, without a question. That's how good he would have been. And I can say that because we drafted him, and it makes me feel better that we drafted a good player, but he never performed, never made it to the big leagues. But I'm proud to say that we did not lose touch with him through our psychologist, who continues to be a part of his life. And I think that is very often when players retire or they don't work out, you just get rid of them and dismiss them and never follow up and never care. And this is an example where that was done.
In decision-making, when drafting players or signing players, how do you guys quantify that type of risk? I've always wondered that, because you can't put a 40 time on it. Not that you use 40 times in baseball, but you can't put a batting average on it. How do you quantify the risk of a player who doesn't seem to have complete grasp of their personal life?
With hubris and delusion.
Yeah.
Basically, we say we're going to be better. He won't do it with us. He's not going to do steroids anymore. He did them in college. He'll be fine. He's not going to drink or do drugs anymore because he's over that, and he's going to be a professional athlete. He'll be under our wing, and we'll be watching him. And it's just, we're wrong just about every time. And often with players, and this is what's going on with the Tampa Bay Rays and Wander Franco, where they signed him to an 11-year, $182 million deal, and he may be done. You just don't know what's going on with him. He may forget his career. He could lose his freedom. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you do the best you can, recognizing there is going to be what in the retail world is the equivalent of canceled credit cards and bad money. There's going to be times when you bet on people and you lose.
Switching gears now, David, I want to play a hypothetical with you. Let's say you are a lead administrator on one of the 4 ACC schools rumored to be plotting an exit in an impossible circumstance. I'm talking about Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina. To buy yourself out of the ACC, it's been reported it's north of $100 million. And also there's this grant of rights, which means it costs an additional $500 million to buy your home games television rights back. How do you get out of this conference? How do you plot your way out of this conference? It seems that they're probably talking to all their lawyers right now because the college football landscape is changing. The ACC leadership, such that it is making overtures to Stanford and California and SMU in a bid to compete with even the Big 12 at this point. How would you get out of this contract?
There are things that you do when you want money, and the example is when young bands sign over their rights to managers or to studios who cut their first album, then they become successful, and all of a sudden the studios are the big bad people because they signed a contract. And the thought is, well, these kids didn't know what they were doing. Every ACC school knew exactly what it was doing when it signed the deal with ESPN. And you can ask our Meadowlark CEO, and he probably won't talk about it, but every single one of these schools took the money. You do not get 1 ounce of sympathy from me if you take the money and sign a deal, but then you're worth more and you're upset with your situation and you've fallen behind because you signed a contract earlier than other people, so you're paid an AAV smaller than other players. Not my problem. At the time you signed it, we didn't coerce you to sign it. We didn't tortiously interfere with your ability to do your business. We've done nothing wrong here. So ESPN is in good standing. John is in great standing, and I'm not saying that because we work with him, and he's the boss. The ACC and Florida State, they can meet with however many lawyers they want. I've seen those contracts. I've negotiated those contracts. There's no outs. If you want to buy yourself out, there are numbers that are contained in the contract to get your grant of rights back in order to buy yourself out of a contract. And then it's a financial decision, and the numbers don't add up. So I do not see a scenario where any court in any way will back up Florida State in their desire to try to get out of their deal early. If they want to leave the ACC, what is it, 2035 or something?
2036? 36, yeah.
We're all going to be dead by then. Who cares?
What?
2036? David, it's 100 degrees before 8:30 in the morning every day in Miami. Miami's not going to have a football stadium in 2036, please.
That's like 2010.
Maybe they'll just move it further north. I don't know.
We're as close to 2036 as we are to 2010, which seems like yesterday to me. We're going to be around. We're going to be doing the show together, Jessica, in 2036.
Well, we'll see about that.
That's so mean to Jessica.
But the
David,
landscape of college football is going to be totally different by 2036.
No, it is. It's crazy how long the deal is for. There were also reports, David, that Condoleezza Rice and George W. Bush are now getting involved in advocating for Stanford and Southern Methodist University to join the ACC. If Condoleezza Rice or George W. Bush are calling your phone, how are you picking it up?
Hello?
What's shaking?
What's shaking?
What's up, Condi?
George, good to talk to you again. Condoleezza, nice to meet you.
Do you think?
I guess I would say that.
Do you think the ACC leadership has been poor? They've been in the backseat the entire time while people like Brett Yormark, who just came to the sport, are eating their lunch. What exactly could get ESPN back to the table? They had an opportunity, I actually think, with COVID to force Notre Dame into the conference because Notre Dame had no other way to play football, and it seemed as though, thanks to very strong leadership from Notre Dame's athletic department, they were able to save that off, get football, and not join the ACC fully. Having Notre Dame join the conference is pretty much the only thing that would get ESPN back to the bargaining table. Is there any way that the ACC leadership can force ESPN's hand here to redo this deal, because it's going to end up killing the conference?
They can appeal to Jimmy, but force Jimmy to do anything? Absolutely not. There's no reason to do it. And again, you're saying eating their lunch. When ACC signed this deal, what were your comments when they did the ESPN deal?
I didn't like it. I didn't like anything that was going to get the University of Miami stuck somewhere till the 2030s.
Then why do you think Miami signed it?
Because everyone else did.
Oh, no, because they offered so much money.
The reason for all of this is the Longhorn Network, to be honest.
Okay.
I have a different view. ESPN does not have to do anything. They may, just in the interest of justice, but they don't need to.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Don't leave yet. All right. Let me give you guys a little rules. When you are in an inter-squad fight, like on the training camp practice, the Cowboys had one recently between themselves. I see Micah Parsons throwing hands. you think that you want to go and find somebody because you have to fight. I know you might have seen this recently. Deion Sanders was upset at his team for not, once one person starts fighting, you all have to fight. And that's kind of an understood rule. Not all coaches encourage it, but it's kind of understood that, like, your position group gets in a fight, everyone got to fight.
That's how podcasts work, too.
Yeah, of course. And the strategy is you got to pick somebody to go and fight or pick a position to go fight that you know that you're going to fare well against. Because no one's actually trying to hurt people, but you don't want to mess around with D linemen. First things first. I was always on defense, so I was always safe. You don't want to mess around with D linemen. They are the biggest, strongest, most athletic, and ruthless people on the football field.
Can we do a position draft if there's just a brawl?
Yeah, we could.
D-line would be the first pick. Kicker, last pick. Let's fill in the middle.
I think O-linemen, not as scary as you think. There's some O-linemen, guards normally, that are ridiculous. But what happens, I think, at a young age for football players is the big, aggressive guys, they put them on the D-line. The big, little less aggressive guys go to the O-line. So you're a little bit safer with yeah, there's some nasty O-linemen. I get it. But the super athletes, if you look at go into a football locker room, the guys who you're like, always D linemen, because they're always the biggest.
I agree with Mike Golick
edge
would also
rushers.
agree with you.
Yeah,
he tells me this every single day.
Linebackers look crazy.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to mess with linebackers either. We used to have with the Ravens, we would have, like, during training camp, we'd have, like, fights between that were ongoing, like, even outside of practice. It's like a joking thing. If your position group, so us, it was the DBs, we had beef with the D-line. It was like fake beef. But if you catch a D lineman or outside linebacker alone, it's a bunch of DBs, you, like, jump them.
Beef.
Like,
I'm sensing the trend, so it seems like defense are going to be the top picks.
sorry, Chris.
Which unit you taking first in this draft?
Oh, no, I was-
Quarterbacks? No, I'm just going to put two positions against each other. Quarterbacks, receivers.
We were doing story time, Chris.
All right, go ahead.
Can I finish
Back
my
to you.
story? So we catch a D lineman and we jump them, and it was like playful. But if they catch us, it's the same thing. So, like, if you left the meeting room to go to the bathroom or to check your phone and the D line was already on break, they jump you. So one time, I will not name the name of the cornerback on our team, but there was a cornerback on our team who did that, left our meeting, go to the bathroom, and the D line was on a break from their meeting. So they start to surround him like they're going to jump, and he starts yelling and yelling and yelling. So it takes us a minute to hear it and come out there. We come out there, he's completely butt naked, and none of the D linemen are fighting him because that was his strategy. He's like, you know what? Y'all not going to whoop my ass. He strips all the way down. He don't have on nothing, but he's like, get back, get back, get back. And it worked. Success. All right. Now you can give me your see, that's what you stepped on.
I'm glad we finished story
It's a
time.
great visual.
I know. I've been hitting y'all with a little piece of story every now and then. Sometimes you got to lay out, Juju. Sometimes I got something planned.
It's a damn gacky.
Inside joke. All right, Chris.
Quarterbacks or receivers?
Well,
Receivers, I feel like, are sneaky.
The thing is, I'm
tough.
I'm out of the league long enough where the size and physical ability of quarterbacks has shifted. But my time, you always want a quarterback. They're big and strong, but they ain't never hit nobody. So you always want to take quarterback. Receivers, I know the like stereotype of diva wide receivers, but yeah, some of them might catch you. But now you don't want it with these current quarterbacks. I would not. I'd fight a D lineman before I fight Josh Allen.
Really?
What's the most underrated unit in terms of
Aaron
feistiness
Donald?
in a fight?
Oh, I said a D lineman, not a demigod. What's wrong with you? Like mess with Aaron Donald?
So right now we have D linemen you don't want to mess with, quarterbacks of 7 years ago you would mess with. Got it.
Not current quarterbacks though. Sorry, Chris. What were you saying?
I'm just saying, what's the sneaky tough unit that people would think is not tough but is?
Punters.
I mean, come on, what are we doing?
Punters. Kickers and punters are different. Kickers during practice, kickers and punters don't have anything to do except for like 1 15-minute period at some point in the middle of practice. Kickers during that time are practicing kicking field goals or they're doing ball tricks. You'll find kickers on the sideline doing ball tricks a lot, hanging out, messing around. You know where punters are? Punters are always in the goddamn weight room.
The quads.
Which punters are you thinking of here? Put some names to these faces.
I think all punters. You think
Zastadil.
I don't want it with Zastadil. I think all all punters are surprisingly tough. You ask for
You can't name a punter. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just look at McAfee. Would you want to mess with McAfee right now?
I feel like that's what you're doing. You're doing McAfee. That's why I was trying to see
it's
who we're
definitely-
talking about
No,
here.
Todd Sauerbrunn, Matt Turk. There's
Boom.
history.
Matt Turk.
History is lined with jacked punters.
I was just thinking about punters that I play with whose names I also cannot remember. I did play with Todd Sauerbrunn, though. But they were always bigger.
You
and
didn't play
strong-
with Zassadil? The guy was your teammate.
I mean, he's a punter and a teammate. Let's not get carried away.
Did you ever talk to your punter? Ever?
If he tried to drop it in the coffin corner and got a touchback, fuck you doing? That was the extent of our conversation. Beginning and end. Yeah. So, but I do respect them. I would never fight any punters. Kickers, with the exception of
David Akers.
Yeah, I don't want no problem with David Akers. But rest of the kickers, I can square up against them. Running backs, no reach. They ain't got no reach. I'm not scared of no running backs.
So we're fighting quarterbacks from 7 years ago, running backs currently. Does that include like McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think because the fact of the matter is you look at the team now and you look at Saquon and McCaffrey and commoners, like, yeah, they're ridiculous. But look at them against other football players. The bottom line is if you are in a team fight, stay away from the D lineman. It's the worst thing you can do.
Do you remember Fuad Reve? Yeah. Do you remember John Randall?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I heard this story.
Yeah. Or for the audience, John Randall, a very intimidating pass rusher who would wear his eye black like war paint before anybody was really kind of doing that, tried to go at Fuad Reve, the Vikings kicker at the time. This is how it turned out.
Fuad Reve was like a all high school wrestler. So I made a mistake, came up behind Fuad. It was just like, hey, next thing I know, man, he had me locked up on the ground. There was one guy who saw it, and it was the wrong guy to see it, Randall McDaniel, and comes over. I'm like, get me loose, cut me loose, get me loose. He's laughing.
Sometimes people ask, like, what was your welcome to the NFL moment? I don't have a great one. I talk about covering Jerry Rice in practice because he didn't make the team, but he came to practice my rookie year, training camp my rookie year. It was very odd because we'd go out to the club with Jerry Rice, and then we'd practice the next day, and then the next couple of days he wouldn't be at practice because he'd be attending his daughter's graduation. And we were like, what? What is going on? This is not – you're not supposed to be here with us. But my real welcome to the NFL moment – which wasn't in NFL at all. It was welcome to college football. I graduated from high school early and started at Maryland and went up there and worked it out and stuff. And we used to have boxing gloves in the locker room, what lots of teams had at the time. If you had beef with somebody, you challenged them into a little boxing match in the locker room. So I get there. I'm a 155-pound cornerback, and I went to Maryland, which wasn't a power, still isn't a power, but wasn't a power at the time. I chose Maryland because I could start there, was my belief. I'm good enough to start at corner day one. So first couple weeks, they're just working out, and I'm talking shit. I'm going to be starting cornerback. So I challenged the current starting cornerback to a locker room boxing match. College weight programs are real, and I still, to this day, when I see my man, I thank him for not doing more damage because that boy caught me with a hook so cold that I was asleep standing up. I woke up before I hit the ground, fortunately. I never did hit the ground, just stumbled, and he pulled off of me. Good soul. But you know what I did from then on? I stopped boxing. I worked on my back pedal. We're not going to do that.
I'm curious of how exactly you got him in the ring. Like, did you walk up to him? Do you just take your shirt off? Like, what is the actual method of, hey, you and me, it's time?
You say it. We're in the weight room, and we're talking trash. And so, like, I get there, and I'm talking trash generally from the time I get there. It's like, yeah, I came here because I'm going to start. That's what I'm here for. I'm here early so I can get the defense down because I am going to start at cornerback on this team. And so that, like, animosity builds up for a couple of weeks because, like, the other corners, they hear it. I'm saying it. I'm an arrogant asshole, and it's whatever. So then people around you hype it up. It's like, you won't box him, no? Go ahead and box him. And the guy that I was boxing is a really nice guy. So I thought I took his kindness for weakness, and I didn't account for the fact that he had been in the weight program for 2 years prior to me. And that hook was cold. But he's a good soul. He didn't finish me off.
In high school, we had a guy named Barry on our team. He was our center. And he wasn't the best, you know what I mean, coordinated wise or whatever. But Barry was 6'8", you feel me? And he was a big brother. But you know me, I'm mad at him. We lost the game. Buddy was doing you all game, bro. You soft, all this, and I'm throwing stuff at him the whole bus ride. He got out the bus, looked at me with a tear in his eyes, and took off his tie, the team issue tie, and started chasing me. I was like, watch out, Barry. Watch out, Barry, watch out. I had on Timberland, so I couldn't get my full thing. Boy, Barry T1000 my ass, and I seen the finish line, but he caught me. And so I woke up. I was in coach's office.
You got a zigzag on Barry. I'm lonely in here, guys. You got to give me some company. I was reading an article last night about how dangerous loneliness is, and like in the UK, they're like attacking loneliness with like a loneliness minister. And you guys set me in. Yeah, it's like a government position that they're using to help figure out ways to get people who are lonely some friends. And y'all put me in here all by myself because I think you want me to die.
I've read that the cure to male loneliness is talking about Bip Roberts with the boys and just sharing your immaculate grid. You want to do an immaculate grid?
Oh, here we go. Let's go.
I love it. Let's do it. I feel like I've never done this. I feel like I'd be bad at immaculate grid.
I feel like you can just blame Stugotz, right? He's just not here today again.
Oh, yeah, we got to change the
That's why
third.
no one's in there.
Yeah.
Roy Philly twin, Jim Tomey.
Oh, thanks, Chris.
I liked what Crossover Grid did because they play fast and loose with the rules. Like the entire right column the other day was just appeared on Hard Knocks.
Who was the Hard Knocks, the defensive coordinator? I think Albrecht. He was fake Vrabel a couple years ago, but he like did something.
They look so alike.
He doesn't look as much like him as he used to, but they do.
They
look
have
like.
the same salt and pepper beard now, though.
He got a way of speaking that suggests to me that he didn't come where you thought he came from. Like
Speaking of Hard Knocks, we're gonna be having the Mentalist coming on.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
The same one?
I don't know.
Oh,
I never watched Hard
Mentalist?
Knocks. but-
Magic?
I'm being told it's the same one.
Oh wow, Todd.